we're all here at 7:05. And the first item of business is to approve the minutes of March 23rd, 2021. Could I have a motion to accept?
I will move, we approve. John?
Well, I had one thing.
Yeah, okay, let's make a motion and get it on the board and then make a motion, second it, and then we'll discuss. Okay?
Sure. So I made the motion. I'm John.
Stuart seconds.
Okay, all right, Tim. I'll ask for any corrections or comments
Well, it
about.
said on item 6, it said Tim Rainville spoke about the safety rail at the pump station. True enough. It says Mr. Rainville will follow up with Boudreaux's Welding in Dayville. I don't know where that came from because I never said that.
Okay, someone had made, probably just made a comment about it. So let's see, where's that in the second paragraph?
Yeah, so I guess you
Yeah,
delete that next sentence, right?
Yeah,
So-
because we'd given up on Boudreaux's Welding a long time ago.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll just, where the sentence beginning with Mr. Rainville will follow up. We'll just disregard that whole sentence there. Would that be all right?
Yeah, that's fine.
Tim, did you want to insert who we're dealing with on that?
I guess we're dealing with me getting around to calling. I have to order from two separate companies. One company has all the elbows and round and the fittings and stuff, and the other one has the railing itself. And I just haven't ordered the stuff yet because a long time ago we had talked about getting John Navarro to supply somebody to put the thing together because the tubing would have to be cut and then everything just tightened down with Allen screws. But and have the guy, I forget his name, that machinist over in Phoenixville make some posts to go down in those holes in the cover in the top. But I haven't coordinated all that yet. So, but now
Best
that the
thing to
weather's
do is
better,
just-
maybe we can make that happen.
Yeah, best thing to do is just obliterate that entire sentence from Mr. Rainville.
Yep.
Right.
Okay. that's
Everyone
fine.
agree with that?
Yes.
All right. Any other comments about the minutes? If not, will you accept the motion, John, to make it as amended? All right. Stu, you accept the second?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
All in favor?
I, Stuart.
Aye. Okay. Opposed? Abstained? All right, passes. The second item of business is citizens chair. I've asked to carry that whole number 3 item as that, so that we have at that time, if I've got anything to say, if the executive assistant has anything to say, or if we have citizens, we'll take it all in
Okay.
one. So we'll carry that consistently from now on our agenda. And I'd just ask to someone make a motion to add 7C down here on the flow report, quarterly meter readings.
So moved. Stuart.
Second, John.
Okay, any comments about it? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstain? Okay, thank you. We'll go on to new business, pumping station maintenance. Let's see, that was, did we change the pumps around? So number 1 is? the
No.
number-
No, number 2 is still lead pump.
Okay, have you noticed it moving any or?
Well, number one, when Paul and I were down there, number one had what, 2/10 of an hour on it, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
But that's all.
Oh, something's not working there. Sounds like number one is carrying the load.
Either
So-
that or number one, is carrying the load, but never gets to the point where we need to invite number two in.
No, number two is lead.
Number two is lead, yeah, right,
Right.
and never have to invite number one in, but
Is this
Did you,
designed,
you mentioned at the last meeting that you're gonna get Chaput, you haven't had him look at that setup?
I did, and he came back to me and said that it was working correctly, and didn't change anything. So I don't,
so,
I guess, I'm sorry, I'm a little remiss, I guess, in
okay,
not
so-
following up with Chaput.
so these are not
Okay.
alternating pumps.
No,
These are set
right
up
now
with
they're
a
not.
dominant pump and a backup to the dominant pump if the flow requires more pumping. Correct?
Right,
Yeah,
right.
once it gets to a certain level, John, then the second pump
The
will
second
probably
pump.
kick in, I
Right.
hope.
Right. So I guess what you're talking about, Roger, is the possible need to switch pumps just to make sure that the number one pump, which is the backup currently to number two, gets some work in there to make sure it's functioning properly.
Yeah,
Is there a
well-
way, is there a way to periodically just swap them that way and have one that they alternate their dominance for maybe a
well,
quarter or
we
something
thought
like
there
that?
was, because I think back, I don't know, what was it, December, Stu, when we were in there and you
Right.
switched pumps. And I think since then, it hasn't been put too much time on it since December, probably.
So they've been manually switched though, from the sounds of it, by the electrician.
Supposed to be able to.
Well, there's
Well-
a physical toggle switch right there. Isn't
Yeah.
that how you do it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
So
Roger
that's
and
what
I
we could do?
physically switched the lead pump.
I mean,
Right.
is that something that we could do periodically ourselves?
Yes,
I mean,
Well,
this could be
but-
something to look into.
But this is when the problems, it doesn't seem like number two pump, is it number two pump that I'm getting this? Number two has only got like 2/10 on it, or number one?
That's number
is only-
one.
number one.
Number one.
Okay, yeah. So
Well-
since we switched the lead pump to
Right.
number two, we've only got
You
2/10.
haven't had enough
on number
flow
one.
to kick it in. Correct.
Yeah.
That's what it sounds. It sounds like the way it's set up, and what Paul's saying is if you're using a toggle switch on it, when you switch the toggle, there's not enough flow currently being generated to put a demand on the second backup pump so that it runs much at all.
Right,
Or,
And if flow increases, would that one kick in? And what you'd have to do is just periodically alternate between the two pumps. Have one being the
Well-
main pump and the other one being the backup, and just keep alternating them.
Either that, or could we get Chaput to put some kind of a circuit in there where
Yeah, which
it
you
automatically, switches them back and forth? Once one gets used, then it switches to the other one, and the next time it's, called for?
That would probably be the best thing if you could.
Well-
On some kind of a timer device of a long,
Could-
like so many days.
could we possibly, John, your idea is well taken, just physically switch them over. If we physically switched over the lead from number two to number one and let number one carry the load and then looked at the hours, if all of a sudden the hours on number one still go up, but we increase hours on number two, that more than we have in the past, say 3 months as it is now, that would give an indication that number one's capacity is much less than number two and has to rely on a backup.
Are they supposed to be the same capacity?
Yes,
Well, we already know that number one isn't as efficient, and there's a note in the minutes from last meeting that the rebuilt pump that Piella Electric rebuilt is going to replace number one at the fairgrounds.
Right, right. Yeah, and yes, and we suspected this going back because I did a like 40 days, 49 days, I think it was, uh, hourly check of the 2 meters, and in that 49 days, uh, number one meter ran something like I think it was an hour and something a day, where number two only ran 6/10. I'm just quoting off the top of my head. I can't quite remember, but it was quite a difference between the two. So it looked like number two was much more efficient. It dumped the load and shut itself off, where number one had to run quite a bit longer before it got to its shut off. So do you want to do you think it would be worth getting you put in there and suggesting this, Stu?
I would kind of like to. We're going to change. We're going to install the rebuilt pump in
Yep.
place of the existing number one pump.
Right.
Right in the fairly near future.
Yes. We were
Suppose
just
we
waiting
do
for good
this.
weather.
Suppose we do this. Suppose we, in the next day or so, go in there and switch the lead over from 2 to 1. We note the hours and then just look at the time that both pumps get up to the point where we switch over. If number 2 starts to gain a few hours, with number 1 being lead pump, that'll certainly just um, kind of back up our assumption that number 1 pump's capacity is not nearly equal to number 2's.
Right. Okay, if you want to switch them back and just make sure that when you switch them back that both are at least running. And then sometime within, hopefully during the month of May, I can get Putnam in there and put the new pump in. But we ought to check to see if that old pump is at least the circuits are working where it shifts them back and forth.
Right.
Okay, within this week, I'll switch the lead over. And when
Okay.
I do, I'll put the hours and the fact in the log down there that the time and when it was switched over on both pumps.
Okay, that sounds good. Sounds like a plan.
Yeah, because if the anticipated end result is to have alternating pumps, that's what you want to have happening. You
Yeah,
want to have them share the workload and
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
have one running all the time, because that one eventually burns out and then you're done.
yep. That's
But
why
There's two
by
different
him,
schools of thought of
by-
looking at it, but I think what they generally do with these places is they do have alternating pumps with a backup available in the event one of the alternating pumps fails.
yeah.
They have one on the shelf somewhere, like in your Connex box.
Well, this one will come on. We've had circumstances where both pumps have been running when we get down there
Mhm.
because the load was such that
Right. When you got high flows.
it needed the assistance of the other one.
Right.
But Stu's going, when he switches them back, it'll be back to the original position when both of them were at least showing some more running time than 2/10.
Right.
So
Okay.
once
Yep.
we,
But when we do change out the pumps or replace number 1 pump, then
Yep.
we need to also make provisions so that we have we alternate the lead lag pump.
Correct.
right.
Well, do you think it's worth a question to Bill about circuitry so it automatically does it?
Yes. I would think so.
I
Yes,
think
and-
so.
If that's capable, if he's capable to do that in the box that we have without, a lot of
Going crazy.
wiring.
I asked him that when the pumps got changed out, if he could either realign the hour meter or whether we had to kind of depend on, okay, well, it's the 14th of May and we changed the pumps and our hours are this, just so we could keep track of the hours on the pumps.
Right. Yeah,
Because, and like you're saying, you don't want to have to manually do that, especially if you decide that you want to do it on a monthly basis or something like that. I mean, it's great being able to do this in May, June, July, August, September, maybe October. But when it gets cold, you don't want to be going there in the middle of the winter having to do that. You want it to be.
But you just don't want to have to remember to do it.
And
yeah,
Yeah,
that's,
yeah, because the
That's
heat, the heat's on in there. It's not too bad, but
And if you need to remember to do it, you do it on a monthly basis, then you do it the first of every month or the first week of every month. I mean, that's the only way to do that. Otherwise, you'll forget.
True.
yeah, we'll have to set up a system if we get to that point, Sean.
Correct.
So. Anything else on the pumping station? Everything's seems to be running okay down there, except for one pump not getting many hours on it.
Oh,
Seems to be
Stu, what happened with the alarm where you called Chiput the other day?
Oh my Lord, I'm embarrassed. He went right back that afternoon and went in and said there was a switch. I didn't see a switch on there, Paul, when you and I were down there. Paul and I went through the pump station, what was it, on Saturday? And
Yep.
there was an audible alarm going off, and so we could hear it when we came up to unlock the station. And I guess I didn't do it, but I swore I looked at the switches and didn't see anything that we could switch over. But anyway, Bill came in right after that, within the next hour, and said he found a switch that was toggled over and shut it off and reset it, and the alarm went off.
Huh. So did he have to open up the box, I wonder, or did he?
No, he
on
just
the
said
outside?
He said he went in there and got up to the safety switches or the alarm switches.
Oh,
I'm
maybe that's-
embarrassed to say, I guess I missed it.
Are
You
they
know,
labeled?
Pardon me?
Are the switches labeled?
Yes.
Ooh,
They're right in front of you. No
Oh,
excuse.
that,
oh,
that
okay.
is embarrassing, Stu.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all on the new business on anything on service calls. There was just Chaput, Bill Chaput showing up, right? So we'll go on to item C. And Tim and the Putnam getting the meter down in Putnam recalibrated.
yeah, all right. So I met with Glenn from the Ponset and Brian and Mike from Putnam, and we it was a nice day. Had a little trouble finding the manhole because it had been so long since we'd opened the thing up. It was covered. But when Glenn got down there, it was pretty clear that there was like a couple of inches of silt or sand in the bottom of the flume bowl. So of course it's reading higher when it's doing that. But he cleaned that out, and we went through the calibration thing, and the meter was reading correctly. We did the numbers and the math, and everything was really spot on. Now Mike was looking over my shoulder as we were, going over things in the in that room there where the meter is.
Mhm.
And Brian was down there he was out there. He wasn't down in the manhole, but he was out there with Glenn, reading things off on the phone, and we were, linked by phone to get everything in real time.
Oh, good.
But it worked out pretty good.
Yeah.
But the thing is, we talked about, getting that sand out of the system down there so that bowl didn't get more silt in it, And Mike was reluctant to clean that particular manhole. He was okay jetting it out before and after, but he didn't want to get anybody down in there and knock that transducer off its track and end up with those, really high numbers like we had before. So I talked to Roger about this a little bit today, but if we had some way of flushing that bowl with a jet of, you know, not high pressure water, but enough to get things, you know, loosened up in there a little bit and let the natural flow of the sewer water just flush the silt downstream, and did that like every other month, we should be able to keep that bowl clean and get the meter readings pretty normalized. The one thing that I did notice, though, in looking at the numbers right after we cleaned the flume and recalibrated, was that number didn't go down; it went up a little bit. So I don't know if there's more silt in that bowl or if there was just more water or what the story is, but that number should have gone down in the week following rather than going up. One thing Glenn mentioned was getting a high-powered flashlight so we can, you know, open the manhole and look down there and hopefully see the buildup in there. So I recommend that we buy, you know, some kind of a more powerful flashlight. And I think he said like 30,000 lumens or something would be good enough to read down there. And I talked with Roger about getting some kind of a well tank, a small well tank, like I saw down at Lowe's, and they have water in it, and then they pressurize it, and then they can walk around and water the plants. Well, we could do the same thing by running a hose on on some kind of a pole down there and getting alongside the transducer and flush that bowl out with that pressurized water and keep the thing clean. I don't know what the members think about that, but it's just one way of doing that without disturbing things down there too much.
What's
All
it
right, I'm
take
done.
to do it? What's it take to do it? In other words, how much water and what are you talking about in terms of volume to get the thing cleaned out generally?
Maybe probably a couple of gallons of water at, you know, if
Sorry
you
about
pressurize
that.
the tank to what normal well tanks are, you know, I think mine's like 45 or 50 psi.
Mm-hmm.
You know, with 10 gallons of water in it, you should be able to flush that bowl out pretty easily.
Would you need to work around it? Yeah, I'm not familiar with what that looks like. I know you've been down there quite a few times, Tim, since I've been involved but I have never actually looked down that manhole, so.
Yeah, I've been in there a couple of times, which, you know, I'm not doing anymore without a meter.
Yeah.
You know, but
Base.
yeah, which, you know, it probably, well, if we got a meter, you'd have to get it calibrated once in a while.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know about doing that. So
Yeah.
I think if
No,
we
no,
just
I'm
did
not
everything
asking to
from
go-
above,
I'm not
yeah,
asking
if we just
about,
did everything from above, we should be able to do that.
yeah,
It wouldn't be too hard to get, you know, if you were watching what you were doing, to get the thing alongside that transducer and not bump it.
How far down is it from grade level to get to where the silt
I think it's
is?
about between 10 and 12 feet, probably.
Quite a ways down.
Yeah, it's a ways down. Yeah, it would be a two-person job to, you know, to be able to do it and not hurt anything.
you got
You
any
know-
time, do you have any time this week to take a look at it, Tim?
This week, probably not. Next week, maybe.
You know, what it sounds like to me, it's almost like it's almost like the water sprayer that when they pump out your septic tank that they have on board the truck with the hose that they use to wash down the walls of your septic tank after they pump it out to make sure there's no sludge buildup on the side walls of your septic tank when they pump them out. That's what pump trucks have, and they have water on board to do that.
Yeah, but we don't want a lot of pressure down there because we don't want to
No.
get anything that goes up in that cone of that transducer.
Yep. No, I don't think it's a lot of pressure. I think it's probably standard water pressure that they're doing when they're doing that. And it might be like a 1-inch hose or something like that. But it sounds like it's almost like something like that is what you need to be able to get access to be able to get down in there with a wand of some kind where you can reach and you have a light so that you don't have to get in that manhole. I agree. You don't want to go down a manhole. unless you
No.
go.
you know, I'm listening to this and I'm thinking this problem is, God, this is not the only type of transducer that the only one that they've got out there. And this problem of a silt buildup below it is probably not just unique to us. Other people have had it.
So what do they do?
And there's got to be, I'm thinking, why will we rebuild the wheel? There's got to be a way to
Right.
maybe a standard a maintenance thing that you do every month or every 2 months or something like that.
Yeah.
I wonder if the Glenn might not be a source for who else has got these things and who else uses them and how do they keep them clean?
Right.
What I'll do tomorrow, I'll call Mike tomorrow. He's
Hey, check
the
with Putnam.
sewer
They
guy,
must have these.
Putnam, what?
Yeah, I was gonna say Putnam must have these problems.
Yeah, and call him because they have a couple of places where they take readings. And if
Yep.
Tim could call the guys from the doing the recal, maybe they must have run in, like Stu says, they must have run into this before.
Yep.
See if they have any suggestions.
Yeah, there's a couple of, well, Glenn and I had discussed, different ways of measuring that flow before, and the mag meter is probably, one of the more accurate ones, but you need a closed system to use that, and that's not possible the way we're doing things. The open system that we have, what we have right now with that Palmer Bowles 8-inch flume, and that transducer is the best system that we,
Yeah.
can have in order to measure the flow right now.
Let me talk to Mike. When I talk to Mike, I'm going to have him, he said he's willing to clean the pipe upstream and downstream of it, but just not that manhole, right, Tim?
Yep. Yeah, that's what he said. Yeah. Yep. Because
So,
he doesn't trust that his guys won't knock that transducer off of its,
yeah.
off of its setting.
Okay, well, if you could talk to Glenn, just ask him again, is there anything, what other kind of systems do they use to measure in a
Yeah.
pit like that? And I'll talk to Mike from Putnam.
Yeah, because this, of course, it has the potential to cost us a lot of money. And when I was talking to Mike Didato about this system, he said, how did he word that? Something that anything really that goes wrong down there, is either works out in your favor or our favor.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, most of the time it works out in their favor. It very rarely works out in our favor.
Well, we were getting some pretty good readings in the 300s, 400s there for a short period of time. But
Now,
I think to get back on what's going on, I'll talk with Mike, and if he needs the okay to clean upstream and downstream, and then we'll look at the about purchasing a light and a pressure tank. And
yeah,
see,
I'll talk to Glenn about that. Now, the one thing that we did notice when Glenn was down there is there was no grease buildup like there has been in the past. It was just sand. So
well,
it
you
could be
don't,
that the sand went right back in again. I mean, that's a possibility.
yeah, well,
but,
it could have broken loose. They could have had a sand dam up the pipe
Yeah.
somewhere. It broke loose.
Yeah.
Filled it right back in after you guys were there. So,
Yeah.
but let me talk to Mike, and if you talk to Glenn, I'll see what they do in there and anything that they have. Mike has experience down in Norwich, one of the towns down there too. So they might have a different system of
Yeah.
monitoring the flow too.
Now, when we open that thing up next week, we're going to have to talk, we're going to tell Mike that we're gonna do that.
Yeah, yeah. I'll talk to him tomorrow and just let him know that we're going to be looking at it. I won't be around, let's see, not this coming week, I won't be around. I'll be back Saturday late. of
Okay.
The 9th, I guess it is, 9th of May, something like that. So, but I'll talk to Mike tomorrow and see what he has to say, and I'll email everybody, let you know what, if I find anything out. Okay?
Yeah, and we also talked briefly about having some more of those plastic covers put in under the
yeah.
manholes
Yep.
or the manhole covers. So
Right.
that's going to be a pain in the neck trying to figure out which ones have it and which ones don't.
Talking seals?
They're like a seal, yeah.
Yeah, they look like those snow discs you'd go down the hill on, kind of.
Yeah, they're a seal.
Yep.
Did John Navarro put those in, Tim?
He did.
Yeah.
Whether his guys kept track of which ones they did, I don't know. But yeah, I stopped by there once, but he wasn't in. I'll call him tomorrow.
You gonna call him tomorrow or?
Yeah, I'll call him tomorrow.
Okay. Okay. And did everyone receive that stuff on the rate change?
Yes.
Yes.
Any questions on that? Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, so I didn't understand anything of what you added to it. Your figures.
It just shows that we've never really figured that 15% in. That's a standard. I guess they've charged us that since we've been on the system, and now they're charging Pomfret the same 15%.
Now, when I read this, for the flow, they were currently charging us, $2,382 per million gallons, and then they reduced it to $1,681.
Yep.
Now, how does that affect our overall bill?
Well,
Because I understand that they changed the BODs and the TSS.
Yeah. Did you that other sheet? Did you see the other sheet that I sent that has all the hieroglyphics on it?
Yes.
The flow actually went down about 30%, but then they charge it that 15%, which brings it back up. And so we really didn't get that much of break even on the flow. And it actually goes up to over 1 cent per pound. Per 1,000 pounds is what it works out to be. So I went to the meeting and asked if they could maybe install that over that new rate over 2 years, half this year and half next year, but that didn't float. They gave us the whole thing in at one time.
All right, but I'm still in the dark as to any kind of meaningful numbers here. What does it mean for our bill? Is our bill going to stay the same to them? After all the this goes down, this goes up, or is it still going to go up some?
No,
And
if you took that last $44,000 bill,
Yep.
I figured with just using that as zero, and I added these new figures in, and it increased $6,720.46.
What you're saying is the $44,000 bill and change becomes 51,217
Exactly. Yeah.
using the new
oh,
rate
all right, I see that.
with a delta of $6,700 between the two.
Right. So, and that's just for the flow. I mean, that's
Everything.
all three considered in there. I did it all.
Factoring in BOD and suspended solids.
Yeah, right. So it'd be 50, yeah, it'd be 51.
Right.
So it brings it up quite a bit. And I thought if they could put it in half at each time, but, and there's only 4 companies on it, well, 5 with Pomfret. But if you looked at the write-up that that company that did for them, CDM Smith, there's 4 companies, and they didn't figure Pomfret because they didn't have enough information since they just went on the system.
Right.
But the Pomfret is included in the rate hike.
What is biochemical oxygen demand, not biological oxygen demand?
Pardon?
It is I'm looking at the notes. It is biochemical oxygen demand, not biological oxygen demand.
Yeah. So anyway, so I just wanted to see the figures that that it would make a difference. It's not just
Yeah, it's like,
a,
yeah, it's like 10% or something. So all right.
About 12% increase.
yeah.
Right? More than.
What did I figure out there? I guess I didn't put the percentage on that. I put the percentage on the other 3, the flows and everything, but I didn't have that one.
Hey, Roger, what is TSS?
Total suspended solids.
That's, yep, go ahead.
Can our budget handle this increase right now?
Well, with we're not gonna see this until our October bill that we get from them this coming October. Because it doesn't start until the new year, which will be July 1st. And so the bill we get in October will reflect this. So, and our TSSs and the BODs, they fluctuate also. And I trying to make some rhyme or reason, like if our flows go up, do they go up also? And I haven't been able to determine that there's any correlation between the amount of flow and the amount of TSSs or BODs. I don't know.
Okay.
You have more experience too than I do. So what?
I don't know that I do. I was just sitting here thinking, listening, Paul, you raised a great question. Do we need to, we historically have been behind the pitch with our rates and things like that. With this kind of, armed with this kind of information, do we need to start to consider perhaps a increase in our rate to offset this increase from Putnam?
Well, later on in the agenda, we're going to do the budget, and I went through the budget and rearranged. I'll make some recommendations, but it's for all of us to look at it and to think. But if we want to make a rate change and get it in this billing, we have to determine that pretty soon. looking at things the way they stand and the amount of income that we have, and we could go one more year without raising it. But like you say, you know, rather than trying to play catch up, or would it be,
Yeah, this is actually a 15% increase when you divide it out.
Yeah,
What you're paying. When you divide the 6,700 into by 44,500, it's about 15%. That's a big
yeah,
jump.
yeah.
So the question is, do you have enough money in your reserves to absorb that? Or you need to deal with a rate increase for your customers so that you don't end up in a situation in the future where you're, you know, you're at risk of not having enough money to cover fees.
Well, I think we can talk about that again.
We'll
Just
talk about it in the budget.
get down
Yep.
to the budget,
Got it.
and we'll go through the budget, and I'll we'll look at it from the budget point of view.
Sure.
But I just wanted you to be aware of the figures, because until I
that's a-
became chair, I really never dealt with
The numbers.
all these BODs and TSSs and stuff like that. So it's interesting stuff, but the correlation I tried to make with the amount of flow that we send them doesn't seem to. I did talk to engineering at one time about that, and they was surprised on how, but I can't remember, this was a couple of years back, and I can't remember what what their alternate was to Putnam taking the samples they take it a certain time every day, I guess, or take about 5 samples. So, and it didn't sound, it sounded like there was an alternate way to do that too. So I don't know. We could get engineering, and I could see if, oh, I just had his name on my desk here somewhere. Oh, Justin. I could see if Justin's still around and ask him to look into it. But, well, let's, if you have no more questions about that, about the increases and,
Hey, Roger,
yeah,
were there any service calls? I think I missed that.
there was no service calls, I don't believe. Didn't.
Okay.
You
Well,
just
we're,
mentioned step by Chaput. That's it.
Yeah, Chaput was the only bill we had,
Right,
I think
which is probably coming out to flip the switch in the pumping station.
yeah.
Thanks.
So, but I haven't heard any problems with anything out there. And Stu, you never got any calls, did you?
I did not. I did not.
Okay.
Bear with me here. I got kind of caught up in a wire here. I'll be back.
Okay. Don't let it strangle you.
No.
Let's see.
Sorry.
We'll go on to old business and repair services. We don't have anything. Northeast placement.
Well, wait a minute. Back
Yep.
to repair service.
Okay.
I talked with, I actually stopped by and spoke with a couple of people at Tassie's. And
Oh, yeah,
the
that's
service manager called me back, and he said that they would be interested in doing that. You know, taking care of our grinder pump customers. But the one problem that they have is that you know, they do offer plumbing, but they don't offer 24/7 service except for heating. They don't have enough plumbers to do that. So if we could wait until a Monday, you know, if something happened on a Saturday and we could wait till Monday to have it serviced, then they'd be okay doing that. And he said if it really came down to it, he may be able to get somebody out there, on a weekend. But by and large, it was just service during the week. And, I said, I'd bring it up before the board and see what the board members thought of that.
Yeah. Well, we don't have service. If I get a call on late Saturday night, my recommendation is to the people to use water sparingly, because usually the alarm, when it goes off, you've got some wiggle room in the wet well before it
Yeah.
starts overflowing. So
Yep.
they aren't out of business completely, but it's just you want to warn them about overflowing, and then sometimes I've had to call some people from electrician from Danielson that had experience on a late Saturday afternoon, but that's the latest I've called anybody. If they call me on Sunday, I'll tell them
Wait till Monday.
that, yeah, they'll have to wait. Yeah, hold it. So,
All right.
Now, were
so
we-
then,
Were we checking with them as a backup to Deep Six?
yes, because he's not giving us up, but I just know he's only on a one-man.
He's a one-armed paper hanger.
Yeah, and he's not taking new customers, but he'll do our work for us. We're one customer with 138 plus units.
Yep.
So, no, Glenn, and we're happy to have him, but like our apartment house that's, I believe, still only has one pump running in one of the wet wells. It's running on the edge there.
all right. So I'll go ahead and call Chris up there at Tassie's, and maybe he can join in on the next meeting, and we could talk to him a little bit.
Yeah. Or if you want to, if you can get a service number where, if Glenn isn't, and as long as one of us goes out there with him to make sure it's someone that has an idea of wet wells and the pumping mechanism and everything.
Well, when I was up there, I went out on a limb a little bit and offered to provide training to these guys if they needed it.
Oh, yeah.
Which
Mhm.
we could do with Glenn, I think. So, as long as we had somebody knowledgeable, and I think the service manager up there, Chris, is pretty involved in his job. So I think if we took him around and showed him, all right, these are the houses, this is how the system, works, he would be able to relay that information to his guys as well.
Yeah. Okay.
I think the other important part is that we are inventorying a supply of expensive replacement parts that wouldn't require them to inventory to be able to service our accounts.
Yeah. Yeah, and I can let him know that as well. Yeah.
All right.
Although, when I spoke with him on the phone, he did seem to be familiar with grinder pumps. So, I didn't know exactly who the manufacturer was of our grinder pumps, but the systems must be similar, I would think.
Well, I don't know how old our systems are old compared to whatever he's working on, but.
Well, first of all, Tim, they're Barnes pumps, and their Barnes is an ongoing viable pump manufacturer as we speak.
Right,
So we're not dealing with
All right, so
antiquated things.
Yeah. No, I didn't know. I didn't think we were dealing with antiquated stuff, but but I didn't know who made the pumps that those guys up there are dealing with.
Yeah. Okay.
So I can tell him that they're Barnes pumps, and he may be familiar with those. But
Yeah, and what we can do if you want to set up a time there, a couple of us could go up with booklets on the pump and just give them some idea of what may break down in the pumps.
yeah. All right.
So, yeah. So, I mean, we're serious about enlisting another plumber, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it'd be wonderful to have a second resource on board.
Okay, all right. We'll get serious with, now this was Tassie, Tim?
Yeah, Tassie's. Yeah, and I know when my younger son was the assistant manager up there at Aubuchon, the Tassie's guys would come in all the time, and they were always neatly dressed. The trucks were always neat, no rust spots, and they were always clean, and they do present well.
Yeah,
I guess
Okay.
Southbridge Tire has since got some new trucks, but anyway, they seem to to present well, and they seem to do a good job. So I thought that they would be a good company to represent us, to our customers.
yeah, okay. And just for general information, what we would do is, they would be certain to get their money because, we have the authority to put liens on properties if they don't pay us, where the company, Tassie's would have to put
Mechanics lien on,
get an attorney, and go
you
through
have
all
to
that.
file a mechanics lien.
Yeah, right.
It's a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, where we just have the tax collector put a lien on the properties and
Yeah,
pay
I
for
mean,
that.
the difference is our lien jumps to the top, their lien is at the bottom.
Right,
That's the
yep,
difference, the way ours works
yep.
for the tax.
There was that other company up there too, wasn't it, Tim? Um,
Southbridge Tire.
Southbridge didn't work out.
Southbridge Tire,
didn't
yeah.
work out. They didn't work, they didn't have the capability, right?
Yeah, it seemed that they were more involved in heating than plumbing. So yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, they're in boiler work, and you're right.
Okay. Well, yeah, if you could pursue that, okay, Tim?
Okay.
And tell them we're serious, so whatever we'd have to do to get them on board and to be able to call them at least 5.5 days a week or something like that.
Okay.
And it's not, we don't have that much problems. We're lucky so far, so we just like
Well,
to
yeah,
have
and I told them that too. That that there's not going to be maybe one service call a month, if that. So I mean, it's not certainly going to overburden their system.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, okay, if you could bring that back to them and see if they, to make sure they're serious about doing it and find out what we have to do to get on their list.
Okay. All right.
Okey doke.
Yep. We'll do.
Okay. Next thing is the Northeast Placement Service. Cindy pulled all the cards, census cards for all their properties, and they own quite a bit of property there. A lot of it's small pieces, 2/10 of an acre and stuff like this, but they can probably combine them and eventually do something. I stopped down there today and got the name of their manager, and I'm going to make an appointment and get a walkthrough of their buildings and see what things are since they're doing so much building. I left it with the fellow that gave me the information that We'd just like to see that we're not charging them too much and our other things are not relevant now. So when I do, I'll report back to you, let you know.
I didn't realize until I saw those cards how much property they own in around that corner.
Yeah, it's
They're buying stuff up.
yeah, yeah. They bought the minister's house there. That was right around by the uh, on 171, and that connects. The land connects right to their land on 169. So
Aren't they, isn't that minister's house on our system?
yes, yeah, that's on our system. The strange part that's on our system. The big colonial brown house right next to the South Woodstock Post Office. That's theirs also, and they have it listed as office space. So that's why I would like to walk through. I thought there were people living in that house. Plus, I see what you mean by on the left-hand side of the post office.
Yeah.
They've done terrific building over there. They've got wooden walkways all over the place there, over there. So I think it's going to be well worth just finding out, get a current standing of what they've got there and how many people are being housed in that whole community.
Yeah, the whole complex.
So, but I've been remiss in getting down there, and I did get down there today and got telephone number of the manager down there, so I'll be talking with him. Okay, Northeast, let's see. Okay.
Item 6.
So that's all I have on the Northeast placement. Let's see. Item 6, system maintenance update. Did we didn't have any repairs or anything that was needed doing since the last time we met?
No, we're still, the only thing I can think of is that, you mentioned it before, we're still operating on one pump in a duplex system over there at the apartments that, if that balloon goes up, we're gonna be faced with, we don't have any backup on that. And we certainly, we've got 2 new pumps and 1 rebuilt pump in our Connex box.
Right. And it's just, I've got to get after Glenn to rebuild one of those, or maybe that's something we can get Tassie down to do if Glenn can't fit it into his schedule. But I'll work on that. Because being away, I was out of my mind for a while.
We're glad to have you
pump
back.
not working, or is the pump gone?
The pump was in operation, not operational. And so they're down, luckily it was a 2-system pump, duplex system, they call it.
Yep.
So it's just running like any other, like your well on one pump.
No, but I mean, is the other pump in there, or was it pulled?
No.
The other
it's-
pump is in there and needs to be pulled and replaced.
Yeah,
Oh, okay, all right.
yeah, it's gotta be, the thing is, it's gotta be disassembled and used as parts on the new pump that you're putting back in.
Are
Yeah,
we,
okay.
are we talking about 2.5 horsepower pump?
Pardon?
Is this one of
Yeah.
those residential
Yeah.
ones?
Yeah,
Don't we have
Yeah.
don't we have a brand new one in the Connex?
yeah.
We have
the
2
pump-
of them.
The pumps themselves are there, Paul, but what we have to do is attach the connections, connect electricity up to it and all that stuff. All that has to be changed over when you put a brand new pump in there. There's more to it than meets the eye, because it's not just dropping one down and pulling another one out.
Paul, some of the hardware that we looked at in the Connex box, it was kind of laying over there and a little rusted and all messed up. And we were talking about how the pump connects up down that slide.
Mhm.
Well, that has got to be, that's there and it's just got to be reinstalled on a new pump. pulling the one non-operable one and then putting in one that will operate. We've got the power wires in there too. It's probably more labor intensive than anything else.
And who would do that sort of work for us?
That would be Glenn.
And,
And
and,
can we schedule that yet?
no, Glenn, is only one person and he needs two people to help pull the pump up.
I see. Okay.
And, I told him this is going back a couple of months before I even went to Florida, that I'd give him a hand with it, but,
So,
now,
mean-
now that I'm back,
right, so if you hired a TASI, they could bring a team of folks
Yeah.
over there to do that for you.
right,
And Glenn could be doing the single man stuff.
yeah,
But if you had a need for something like that, where you're replacing something and you need more than one person to do it, rather than us having to get involved to help him, you
Yep.
could then have Patsy's send his crew over
yeah, right,
and they could put it in it, take out the old one and put a new one in it for you.
right,
So probably the sooner we look at, that kind of an option for us, the better.
right,
Takes the
Yep.
pressure off Glenn too, because, I don't think Glenn's going to say, oh, geez, I'm getting slighted here. He knows he can't do a lot of this stuff because he's a one-arm paper hanger. So it won't hurt his feelings to give bigger jobs to somebody else that he really can't handle without help.
Yeah, so Tim, when you're talking to Tassie, tell them we have,
Yeah, that's what I would do
something they can cut their teeth on and,
right away. Yep.
Yeah, and we'll know if it works right off the bat too,
right,
Correct.
when they're done with it. So, yeah.
yeah.
Right.
Okay, Tim?
Yep.
On that?
Yep.
Okay. Good, thank you. Let's see. I guess we'll go on to flow reports, the weekly meetings. Has everyone had a chance to look at them?
Yep.
Any questions on any of them? Hearing none?
We have through the middle of this month, right? Yeah,
Yes.
with 1 week missing.
Let's see. It's a little bit difficult to follow, but on page 2, you got where the year begins, 6/1/20,
Mm-hmm.
and then you kind of follow it from there. And we get down to, let's see,
I was just looking at, I was actually looking at what is page 2 at, for FY 2021.
yep,
And for the end of March at 778,000 change, but there was no reading taken for the week of April 5th, but there was a reading taken for the week of.
oh, yeah.
That's what I was talking about.
Yeah, I have that. That was one of my questions to ask Mike, because Mike's the one, Mike Dedetto
Get you that
Right.
report.
is the one that takes the readings, and so
So
sometimes
they have.
they,
Yep.
sometimes they must have the reading somewhere to come up with 647, 910 for the next week.
Correct.
So I've
Oh, here it is. Here it is. No, that's probably last year, right? No, it's
Yeah,
not last
yeah,
year. The 582, 120, 323 to 46 average, which makes sense because we're talking about 4 or 5. So they may have done something similar to that. I don't know, but we'll have to ask them.
well, it could be, but yeah, where it
Yep.
would be nice if that figure was cut in half and
Correct.
half for the 2 weeks, but
Right.
I have a feeling they just forgot to.
Fill it out.
Yeah, I'll talk
Well,
with
look
Steve.
at the previous March, well, the March readings, the 647 falls kind of in line with the March 1 through March 29. As far as for the flow.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Well, we cleaned the flume on the 24th, and
Really?
yeah, and then we ended up with another 90,000 gallons.
Correct.
Yeah, yeah.
Sure you want to be cleaning that flume?
Yeah, I'd like to take a look at that. There's got to be more sand in it.
Yeah.
Yep.
I've got a feeling there was a dam or something upstream that broke loose and probably dumped some more flow down there of silt and sand. So if you get any time this week, Tim, give me a call. We'll go down and look at it.
Because you really don't have any rainfall reported in that period either.
Yeah, I know.
No. There's more sporadic. Now, I don't know. No, it's not intentional, I'm sure, but I guess we're not top priority.
Small player in the system.
Well, we are, I'm afraid.
know.
But it's big potatoes to us, but
Right.
to them.
Small enough.
So, and then I took the quarterly figures.
Yep.
And there was one, we revamped our procedures there where we say no one will pay on the system less than one EDU.
Right.
So the fairgrounds is going to fall into that category. If you look down here, second from the bottom, Woodstock Fairgrounds.
Yep.
They've 40 for the total year. They've only had 4,300.
Right. Because of no fair.
Now with the pandemic, we can say, let it go, or we can charge them an EDU for the year when we get, to the end of sending out the bills. So, I mean, with the pandemic, a lot of things are,
Out of whack.
yeah, and everyone's having a hard time. And I know the fairgrounds hasn't been running anything that makes them any money. So, but I'm not.
They've kind of made decisions that they're kind of limiting what happens at the fairgrounds in terms of activities to just strictly agricultural efforts too.
Yeah, right.
No more special events or anything like that, or special uses of the fairground facility anymore. So it's either the fair or agricultural day or stuff like that that they're running. So they're kind of holding.
Where the crowds are limited and.
Correct.
But
they already have a fair this year, so that's their plan. There will be a
Pardon?
Woodstock fair. I said, I've talked to them. There will be a Woodstock fair this year.
Yeah, I've heard that myself, that we're gonna.
Yep. I've had that discussion with them because they had asked me about it for the church barbecue.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
So what's the feeling on the fairgrounds? Do we want to just go the actual rating, by their actual ratings are?
Well, I think this is probably one year where they're actually hurting for money, to be honest.
Yeah. So I have no problem.
have the
We're down about 1.6 million gallons from all these customers because the schools have been closed.
Right,
And,
because of COVID. Yep.
last month, I think it was Tim or someone asked about the figure for the elementary school and if that was a questionable reading. But if you look at the middle school, their readings are way down.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
And so it's just the use of the school.
Right.
You know, it's so.
Yeah, wow. Geez, yeah,
Any-
you're right.
Okay, we'll go by their, we'll just take it a consensus that, the group will approve going by the figures actually recorded on their meter.
Yeah, because next year they'll be back up again anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, this year
Is
it'll
that all
be,
right?
I
Is
mean.
that all right with anyone?
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay,
You need a motion on that or anything?
well, I
Probably
was
not.
going to just take it consensus and
Yeah.
we'll put it that way, when I have to give these, figures to the tax collector and then she, sends out the bills.
Yep.
By these figures here.
Yeah.
So,
I
Now,
mean,
one thing about-
and honestly, Roger, how
yeah,
much, what's the difference in what that amount is versus an EDU amount? How much is it?
oh, it's way off. 80, let's see, that's,
I know this 4,300 gallons is like chump change.
yeah, it's,
So what's
91,250 gallons
family?
is one EDU.
Okay, so this is about half of that.
Oh, it's about
Well, this is 4,300. I was thinking 43,000.
4,300, yeah.
This is like nothing.
They're running a toilet in the, office up there.
That's it. That's it.
That's it, yeah.
That's all it is. Yeah.
Like- I think it's like
So-
some 28, 30 bucks or something, isn't it?
It's 4 times, $10.71,
okay,
17
40
cents.
bucks.
$2.
That's a
$40.
bargain.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
yeah,
mean, they'll be back to a big flow on Labor Day weekend and leading up to it.
Now, one thing about Labor Day weekend with the fairgrounds, we usually pour that degreaser in there
yeah,
after the fair.
yeah.
Let's talk to parent sanitation about what happens if we don't pour that stuff in there. If they can, get rid of all that sludge that's in there by, just vacuuming it up,
No.
because
no,
when they can't.
no, have you been down there, Tim, when they're pumping?
Well, I know when the last time I was down there with Andrew down there, he knocked a bunch of stuff off the walls and got it sucked up pretty well. I mean, it took him a while.
Oh,
But
yeah.
if we can keep that stuff from going down into the flume, because it seems like it re-emulsifies down there,
Oh, yeah.
or not re-emulsifies, but recongeals down there
Degrease.
and causes problems.
Yeah, that's right. You said there was no grease buildup down around the flume this time, right?
Yeah, and it's been a long time.
Yeah, yeah. You mean it would be better to have the grease congeal there than continue on downstream and screw up our readings down in the flume?
Yeah, I
Is that
mean,
what you're
just
thinking?
something to think about.
Yeah, but it's very, very difficult getting that ridge off the, if you look down in that pit, there's the ridge of grease all around the edge.
Yeah.
It's very, very difficult. I've seen the guy banging the hose against it and slamming down on it, and I'm always afraid he'll ruin something else of ours down, some equipment down there, slinging that hose around. So the way I usually do it is I'll shut the pumps off and let it build up to about that ridge. Then I'll pour in the degreaser so it soaks in there and gets on the sides, and then turn the pumps back on and let it go down so some of that degreasing fluid sits on top of the grease ridge. So, but yeah, I guess we're damned if we do and damned if we don't.
Now, has anybody taken a look down in that wet well for unpumpables lately? Because Stu and I did it a long time ago now.
You're talking in by the pumping station?
Yeah,
In the wet well.
in the wet well.
Yeah. It usually gets cleaned out pretty well, but it's nothing like some of the homes that I've seen that like that 4-family apartment house over on 169. Oh, you wouldn't want to
well,
look in.
Paul and I, when we were down there Saturday, opened up the top, and I did not, of course, I didn't see the switch off either, but I didn't see a whole bunch of unpumpables down in that wet well. I don't know whether you noticed anything floating around in there, Paul, or not.
It looked pretty clean to me. Yeah, I don't remember seeing anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Usually
That's
is,
remarkable.
if there's stuff collecting there, it'll, you'll see it floating around. It's very obvious. So if you didn't see it, Stu, I wouldn't, and Paul, I would think it's in pretty good shape.
Yeah, that's
So,
I guess people have been paying attention to that letter then.
well, and schools haven't been in, so whether anything gets through the pumps at the elementary and the academy is a big factor.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
then, most of the houses from there on up, from the pumping station on up, are residential properties that people take pretty good care of their systems, so. We really haven't had to, I don't think I ever remember looking in and seeing that, oh geez, I better get the pump guys down here because there's so much stuff floating around down in there. Have you, Stu?
Not for a while,
Yeah.
but we've been a little more diligent in our maintenance down there.
Yeah. So. And let's see, so we've covered all the meter readings and all that stuff. The next item is paying the bills. And we have 4 bills on here for a total of $44,920.41. Do I have a motion to pay the bills?
So moved.
So moved, good.
Second,
I'll
John.
second that.
Okay.
All right.
I know it. It's difficult, guys. I know.
It's okay.
I appreciate you all. So, all in favor of paying the bills?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. And let's see. Okay, well, does everyone have a copy of the budget there?
I do.
Okay. I went through this and there were quite a few spots where I lowered the price of, lowered the figures in there. And if I could go through there and if you all could maybe just jot the figures down in that particular place and then we can, discuss those and the other figures. Okay?
Okay.
The first one was the water treatment. I lowered it from 180 to 160. I think that'll just about cover it as long as we don't have any million gallon flows.
So
Well,
is that before the Putnam rate increase of 15% that you lowered it?
No, I did that this week.
Because I'm wondering, you want to leave that in as a safety valve because their rates are going up, and if flows eventually come back up, you want to make sure you got enough money. I mean,
Well, we've got the money. If you turn the page over there, and right at the bottom of the page, I
Yep.
think it shows your fund balance.
yep,
We have a fund balance as of March 1st was
Pretty good.
$310,271.
yep.
So I mean, we're not
We're
going
healthy.
to
We're
stiff
healthy.
anybody
Right.
or be delinquent.
Correct.
But is it a
And,
good, but that was a good point. I mean, this year's been unusually low, right?
Right.
Well, it's been more on what we're used to seeing from those high readings that we were getting when the meters were all cockeyed.
See all your stuff, Matt?
You know, if I could make a suggestion, Roger, why don't you go down through the list and give us the figures that you've obviously thought about, and then perhaps we can come back and take a look at the overall effect and discuss the various
Okay.
impacts.
All right. The next item down here is the part-time staff, item 205, and underneath the administrative expenses.
Yep.
I lowered that to 5,000. We haven't been near the $7,000. We always had high hopes of having someone that's going to last there and going to do a little bit more and take meter readings and stuff like that, that, you know, they get for free right now.
Yep.
So I lowered that to 5,000.
Which one was that again, Roger?
That was under
Administrative part-time
administrative
staff.
expenses, 205.
Part-time staff.
Part-time staff there. You see that
Oh.
one? That's
Got it. You said 5,000?
Yes.
5,000, right? Okay, and then I jumped down to lift station operation.
Yep.
Where Eversource, I just lowered that one to 2,500. We're getting a little bit of a savings with the solar cells.
Yep. Yep.
So
Yeah, we're a proportionate share of the solar panels at the transfer
yeah,
station,
right.
That's funny.
Teensy weensy, but it's helped a little
Okay.
bit.
Correct.
Okay, and that's all for that front cover page. And go over to page 2. And right at the top of the page, lift station maintenance,
Yep.
I lowered that to 3,000.
So if I understand this correctly, though, we spent almost $8,000 this year.
Well, that was with pumps, and we bought new pumps, and we
Right.
bought.
So let's play devil's advocate. This is the pump station, right?
Yeah,
So what if it turns out that we have replaced one pump, right?
right.
So, and we're kind of wondering if the second one's really working the way we want it to.
Yep.
Do we want to hold some money in abeyance just in case?
Well,
Or-
we can take that out of and call that capital improvement
Okay.
at the bottom of the sheet.
Yep.
So we can take that out of our fund balance down here.
Okay.
All right, if that becomes a problem.
Yep.
So.
Well, we just bought a new
What you
pump.
want to do with your
Yeah.
main pumping station, to be honest with you, I'm thinking with your main pumping station that regardless of how we set this up as alternating pumps or flip the switch pumps or whatever have you, because it's the main pumping station, you probably want to have a standby pump on the shelf somewhere. In the event something goes, you don't have to worry about just running on one pump for a while until you get the second one replaced. I mean, I may be
No,
wrong.
we will. As soon as that pump gets pulled, it's going to go down to Pila and get rebuilt.
And so
And
you
we have another one waiting. Yeah, we have 3
And
pumps.
we have a brand new
then
pump
fine.
that's ready to put in, a
Good.
rebuilt, I mean, not a brand new, a rebuilt pump there.
That's fine. Yep. So Stuart, I
Well,
need to I need to have that visit to the Connex box and the pumping station sooner than later.
There you go. My God. Well, you get back in the country, we'll do it.
I am. I'm home.
Now,
Okay.
Roger, we bought a brand new pump. What was it, like 4 years ago, 5 years ago?
Yeah, and that's number one pump, the one that's giving
Okay.
us the problem.
Really?
Yeah. It's never seemed too efficient since we put it in there.
Yeah.
To my looking at it,
So-
looking at ours, and it's
Yeah, I
always
didn't know which
run.
one it was.
So definitely, if you have in your plans to always have a backup pump on the shelf, ready to go,
Yeah, well, we'll
Yeah.
have one as soon as we get that back, so,
that's key.
Matter of fact, as we speak, we do have a backup pump ready to go right now.
yeah,
Good.
right.
Good, perfect.
Roger, I hate to ask, oh, shoot.
Go ahead.
Can you tell us what category that was and the amount change again, please?
Okay,
Lift
let's
station
see.
maintenance, 500.00289. Budgeted at 3,500 currently. Did you leave
And
it
what's
at
it-
3,500?
At the top of the page, I said
Top of the page.
3,000.
Yes, you made it 3,000.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Okay,
and then we dropped the grinder pump operation. 189, 500, 189.
Yep.
I left that at 2,000
okay.
because our equipment's getting older, so I want to have, I think.
289 or 218?
no,
218 is budgeted at 2,000. 189.
No,
is
this
budgeted
is
at
this is
500.
one that was budgeted for 500,
Yep, you're making it 2,000?
and we spent 3298.
Correct.
We bought a couple of pumps, but it's still
So you want to bump that up to 2 grand?
$2,000, right?
Okay. Good.
Okay.
Yep.
Now we're going down to consulting services,
Yep.
and 4,000 on 213,
Yep.
first line of it.
Yep.
The 4,000 I dropped down to 2,500,
Okay.
and the one right underneath that, legal services,
Yep.
2,500 to 2,000.
Yep.
And then the one at the bottom of the page there,
Capital equipment. Capital improvement.
3,600 to 3,000.
Okay.
And with all those cuts, it came out to 25,600.
25,600 from the 218.
From the 218, right?
So it's reducing from the 218 by 25.6. What you're saying?
Right. 192,540.
192,540.
All right, this might sound like a strange question, but why were we talking about a rate increase earlier?
Because
Why?
our costs are going up.
Yeah,
But we just
Well,
cut the budget by $26,000.
Well, that's why I said what I said. I said,
Yeah.
on the one hand, we're facing a 15% rate increase by Putnam, not knowing whether our flows are going to jack back up again, but we're reducing our budget for wastewater treatment budget or costs, which are those 15% increased flows by 20 grand.
well,
That's why I say-
hey, if you go, just go back to the top of the page again, of the first page.
Sure.
Okay, it says that we've already expended $63,006.81.
Correct.
I added to that the first bill that,
44,46. Yep.
the 40, but also I added a 35,570 bill, which the treasurer's office will not
Okay.
consider paid this year. They take it out of last year's budget, but it's something we paid out of this year's money. So to get a full year's comparison, I use the 4 quarters that I'm talking about. And the 35,000 was the first one, the July bill we got.
How much was
Okay,
that again, please?
35,570
Okay.
and 9 cents if you want to put that down. And then also this 44,496.72. And I come out with a total spent this year on the budget, on the Putnam bills of 142,074.
Yep.
And so bouncing that 142, we still get $18,000 there.
Okay.
You know, I'm not saying it's a cushion, but,
right.
and our bills fluctuate.
But this past year, I mean, what we could also do is look at how much our flows have gone down because of COVID, which will go up.
Well, some things will go, but also our income
EDUs
from
will
the
stay the
school
same.
will
Right.
go up.
Right. Your commercial accounts with the flow meters will go up coming out of COVID. That'll go up. Your
Yep.
EDUs will stay the same. But what you have to also factor in is, so let's assume for giggles that the 142,000 this year becomes, at this year's rate, 164,000 next year. Now let's add 15% to that. What do you get? $180,000.
It's possible. I'm not going to argue with anyone about this.
Yeah.
I've seen too many.
And you know what, Roger, also, because of the fact that Putnam's increasing their rate by 15% in our budget, I wouldn't go less than what we have in our budget because of that.
Yeah, I would agree. I'd like to keep it where it is.
Okay, then okay, all the, if we leave that where it is,
Your change becomes about $5,600.
yeah.
Well,
But-
$20,000. You pick up $20,000 right there.
The change originally was 25,600, right, Roger?
What again?
We reduced it by 25,600 for the budget for the year. So if we bring
Yeah.
back the 20,000 and it's 5,600, we're reducing our budget by.
Right, 5,600, yep.
And I think, guys, that's kind of being responsible because of the fact of we don't know what the flow. I mean, and then you could probably look at last year's commercial accounts. I mean, in 2019's commercial accounts flow, and then compare them to what they were this year, and that would give you an idea as to, you know, how much at the current
That's what I-
rate.
That's what I looked at, 18-19, the 18-19 year
Yep.
was 1,600,000,
Gallons.
1,600,000
more than this year.
Yep.
Well, 18, that's when we had the problem with the transducer was off whack,
Yep,
and we were getting those huge flows. So
yep.
that wasn't a good year.
Not a good indicator either.
Well, this is 18-19 after I looked it over and it didn't
Yeah.
poke
mean-
me in the eye with
Oh, it was
anything.
after it got realigned?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I would just err on the side of caution about the 15% rate. And if it turns out that, you know, we find that at some point in time, we have to increase the rate to the ratepayers, then we're at least budgeting responsibly, saying Putnam's increasing the rate by 15% to begin with. We don't know coming out of COVID. I would, you know, I'd feel a lot more comfortable just leaving it where you got it in the budget and see what happens for 21.
Okay, if we do something like that, then we're probably going to have to increase the rates then.
You think so?
Yeah,
Well, what we look at is we've got residential EDU customers, fixed number. So we know what we're going to get is income from them.
Correct.
Okay, the variable is our 9 commercial customers.
Correct. Depending
so-
upon flow.
Pardon me? Yeah.
Which is depending upon flow. Correct.
But what I'm saying is that really the baseline for our income is our EDU customers. We know what that is. That's fixed.
Right.
At
It's
our
100
present rate, we know what we're going to get in.
right.
And where
Right.
does that fall? What does that bring us? What's that? With 100 and some odd customers and looking at a budget,
Yeah.
what are we looking at making up the difference with?
Yeah, just a minute. Give me a minute here and I have a pile of paper here, but it's something like from the EDU customers, residential customers, we get 118,000.
Yep.
And from the metered customers this is this year, or I'm
Okay.
talking,
Right.
with our 9 commercial customers, our metered customers, we're getting 56,000. So that brings us up to, let's see, it was just short of 200,000. So the income isn't there unless we raise our rates.
So I guess I don't understand, because when you're thinking of reducing our budget for what we expect to spend for treatment facility costs to Putnam, you said, well, if we need more money, we've always got it in our fund balance.
Right.
But if we leave it where it is, we have to increase the rate to our customers? That's what I don't understand.
Say again, I missed something
So
there.
what I'm trying to understand is what you were saying was, well, based on what you expect for history is to reduce the budget of what we expect to pay for wastewater treatment from 180,000 to 160,000, knowing that we're coming out of COVID with our commercial customers, and knowing that Putnam's basically giving us a rate increase of about 15%. And with the understanding that, well, you know, at 100, if it goes over 160, we always have this fund balance we can always tap to cover those costs. However, if we leave it the same, we're saying we have to increase the rate to our customers. That's what I don't understand.
If we leave the
180,
figure at 180,000,
yes,
all right, we're going to come out with expend everything on that bill. I mean, on that budget,
yep,
we're going to spend 218,000.
right,
Okay,
yep,
minus 5,600.
yep,
Something like
sure,
that. Okay, so you're going to be over 200,000. Well, the income doesn't substantiate that. The income is only coming out, if you take 138 residential customers at $849 and something, 60 cents or something, whatever that figure. Hang on a minute, I've got it here somewhere.
Well, wait a minute, John, we have to show the auditors that we're running a balanced budget.
mm-hmm,
So that's why,
So
so,
you know,
the money is there in our, the
Fund
town
balance.
only keeps it in one figure, so they don't know. The budget is for us to live by,
right,
all right?
What's our current balance? Like, we're gonna end the year in the black, right?
Yep,
yeah,
And
you
then-
got a fund balance and as of 4/14 at $310,000.
right.
And you're
but that
still getting.
also shows the capital improvements though in that too. You know, that's money for capital improvements.
Yeah, unfortunately, the town put everything into one account because when they
So-
invested,
So you have a capital improvement funding budget that's coming out of your operating budget, but not coming out of a capital improvement budget? Is that what you're saying?
Well, we're just putting some extra money into the capital improvements through that line item.
yeah.
We have been, over the past few years, have been rebuilding our fund balance
Yep,
because for a number of years, it took it on the chin because we were running way, way, way below our expenses with our income. So we constantly tapped into the fund balance.
right,
Now, we adjusted our rates so that we came more in line with what our actual costs were.
right,
And over the last few years, we've actually had a surplus of over our anticipated. The budget is a guess. We say, okay, we're going to spend $218,000. Well, if we spend
Right.
200,000, then it's a paper transfer within our books, and that
Right.
shows up on the plus side and
Right.
in the fund balance.
And so you just said that your fixed rate paying customers, your residential customers account for how much in income every year?
Hang on a minute. About
118,000,
about 60,000.
What?
No, not the.
118,000.
Not the flow rate. I'm talking the fixed EDUs.
Oh, okay. The EDU customers, $118,624 is what you can expect if everyone pays up.
Okay. And your flow rate customers, which are based on the flow meters, the commercial accounts,
Yep.
not looking at this year because this year's low, on average is about how much?
It's
Because you haven't
probably
increased the
around
rate.
70,000 something. And
70,000.
yeah,
70,000, let's
this
say?
year it's only 60.
Right. Well, of course.
But
That's plenty.
I was surprised when I went back and figured that how many gallons we were off, that it was only 1.6 million gallons was the difference between a
So
good.
Roger, what you were trying to do in this budget then, if I understand correctly, is not looking at your fund balance, but rather coming up with a proposed budget based on user fees that matches your budget.
That's the only money we have.
Okay.
And we're a self-sustaining group so that we, you know,
Right. Even though you do have this fund balance, which you're using
Yeah.
for capital improvements. Okay. So then we probably need to talk about a rate increase.
But so the budget's meant to be, it's a guess, but it's meant to be an
I understand
educated
how this
guess.
works. Right.
It's
Exactly.
meant to be an educated guess that gets us as close to the actual as possible, which we don't know yet. Right,
correct.
it's just experience, that's all.
So we shouldn't be building cushions into a budget unless we have a pretty good sense that we're actually going to need to spend that money, right?
Yeah, well, that was my point of trying not to maintain too much of a cushion in a tough year.
Yeah, I see the wisdom in that now, of making that wastewater the 160 that you had initially suggested.
So what happens if it turns out to be 180?
Then,
Are you
well,
going to increase the fees?
Well, we can
Well-
talk about it for next year, maybe.
But you're going to have a deficit budget this year if you do that, right?
well, but by 20,000, we haven't hit that, even in a bad year, we didn't hit that 180,000.
But the budget won't be deficit. The budget will reflect what we reasonably think we're going to spend, and it won't be a
Right.
deficit budget, right?
Yeah,
Well, No, you're adopting, if you're adopting it at 160, what I'm saying is if you adopt a budget, let's say at 160 for rates, for flow rates to Putnam, and it turns out you actually spend 180 grand to Putnam because of the 15% increase, and your commercial accounts use a lot more, generate a lot more flow, then you will have had an end year budget that went over budget by $20,000. Correct?
well, we will if,
Right.
but we don't, the
You don't anticipate it happening.
customers don't get the bill until the end of the year, okay?
Yep.
Based on what we've taken in
Right.
those 4 quarters.
Right. But every budget year has 4 quarters of bills that are paid to you, to the WPCA, to the town, correct?
They don't pay it on quarterly. They pay, metered customers pay once a year
Okay, so they pay at the end, okay,
in July, right?
right. They pay once a year, every year, so that they're not paying twice in 1 year to represent 2 years, paying it in 1 year. They pay it every year.
Yep.
So you don't have any overlap going on. Now, your EDU customers, do they pay you quarterly?
They pay twice a year.
Twice a year, semi-annually, okay.
Yep.
So that's automatic, so that's guaranteed money coming in every year. So
Yep.
so really the crapshoot is whether or not your flow rate, your flow rate customers, your commercial customers at the increased rate with increased flows will be on what you project for the cost that we'll have to pay Putnam. And whether or not that 15% that you think you got a decent cushion with for the residential customers with the EDU rate will still work going forward. And maybe we just do that. Maybe because of it being a tough year, you roll the dice. You say, okay, we're gonna let it fly. And if it turns out that we underestimated what we had to pay to Putnam, then next year we're gonna have to have a rate increase.
What happens if
what-
what happens if we go back and we take and we work on metered flow and look at the past 3 years history? Perhaps just say we're doing workman's comp. We'll throw out this year, and
You have to throw it.
and say, okay, you know, we've been working at this particular gallonage, and with the increased rate, maybe we could consider with the commercial flow that
Increase.
given the anticipated flow, and you're right, John, it's a guesswork, but if we're coming up with X number of gallons and at a flow rate of, maybe we need to look at increasing the commercial rate.
I hate to tell you guys, but the difference between the current commercial rate and the
Well, it's like 1/3, isn't it?
EDU rate. Oh, no, this is the what we charge to the customers.
Okay, based on assumed
It's,
numbers, yes.
Hang on here, I've got the figure somewhere here. It's something like $68. The immediate customers pay $68 more per EDU. You know, if you figure the 91 than a residential customers.
And we assume a residential customer generates about 95,000 gallons a year?
91,
91?
250.
Okay.
91,250 is what engineering has figured as a residential EDU.
Okay.
Yeah, $9.42 equals per 1,000 gallons is what the residential customers pay.
Yep.
And the
Commercial,
commercial customers pay $10.17.
they're paying a little bit more to begin with.
Yeah, per 1,000 gallons.
Yep.
And the reason I set it up that way when we were back doing, but started doing budgets, is because the metered customers pay just for what that comes out of their tap, okay?
Right. Sure.
And they don't pay for any leakage that comes into the system. The residential customers who pay a fixed amount, okay, we're saying they're gonna use 91,250 per year.
Right.
But if
Some
both
may, some
parents,
may not.
both
Right.
adults are out of the house, no one's there 5 days a
Sure.
week.
Oh, yeah. Right. Oh,
you
sure.
know?
Yep.
So
No, you
that's
had-
why I upped this was going back quite a few years that I
mean-
upped the per 1,000 gallons is what we based it through. I upped to 1,000 gallons for the EDU, for the metered customers, because
Yep.
they're on a known value.
Right.
And
Well, they're
some of
they're the precise amount of sewage being generated. Correct.
so
and-
not paying, and they're not paying for any leakage.
Right. They are if they have water problems internally. In other words, if they have like water line, if they have leaky fixtures running into the sewer, they're paying for that.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
I've got a letter going to the academy now. They have 3 sump pumps that are emptying into the sewer system.
And they're paying for it as sewage.
No.
No,
No, they're not.
No, they're
that's
not.
groundwater.
Where are the
It-
meters?
It's
On the
ground
incoming water.
on we read their meters, their water meter, how much they use goes into, so they're only paying for what goes down the drain from their wells. Okay, so if you've got a sump pump that's taking groundwater, putting that in there, that's adding to treatment that we have to pay for, but that the the academy isn't paying for.
But also, John, along that same line,
Yeah,
if they sprinkle and spread 1,000 gallons of water on that grass to keep it nice and green,
right.
they pay us for that.
So their metering is on their incoming water?
Yep.
Off the
Yes.
wells?
All except the fairgrounds is metered by the water they use from their wells. The fairgrounds has a meter in the ground that measures the outflow.
Wow, so I would have, I would have thought that they would be metering based on their outflow.
No, that would be nice. That would take it care. We wouldn't care what their infrastructure was doing.
Right,
Yeah, matter of fact, we had, maybe about a year ago, a little bit better. We were involved in a discussion with Woodstock Academy about them changing their metering over
right.
to a discharge meter rather than
An
the
intake
sum
meter.
total of their
Right.
supply
Right.
meters.
Right, absolutely. Absolutely. And then that way they have to, if they have problems with leaks in their lines coming to you, they have to pay for it.
And,
There you
and
go.
if they want these sump pumps and roof leaders and all that
Mhm.
emptied into the sewer line, they
Yep.
pay for it. You know.
One of the things with the Woodstock Fairgrounds, and when we were looking at I&I,
Yeah,
people said, well, maybe the fairgrounds has got a lot of leaks in their system. We said, well, it could be, but since they have a discharge meter, truth be known, if they've got 1,000 gallons coming in and I&I, they're paying us for the processing of those 1,000 gallons
right, if it's a
because they've got
discharge.
a discharge meter.
Correct, correct. That's
Oh,
too bad.
between the year 2018-19 and 2021, we're going to lose $16,272 from the metered customers.
Yep.
So I was just trying to be thrifty as far as looking at it from
I hear you.
the
Yep.
from the residential customer's point of view.
Yeah,
And that's why I was so tight on that. I felt that I was, from
Yeah,
my
no.
point of view, I was being reasonable, but,
Yeah, and I- and
and
I
that I
think
could,
they're
substantiate, not
Right.
increasing
increasing
the,
now. Right, the residential customers,
yeah.
right.
So,
So where do we
It's-
go from here?
well, what we have to do is we have to, if we're going to do an increase, we have to decide right now because we have to hold a public hearing.
Yep.
Put a notice in the paper, have a public hearing, which usually no one attends except for Paul.
Yep.
And appreciated, Paul. But have to at least make note of it. And then put a notice in the paper afterwards of what we decided for an increase.
So do you want to take the chance then, in lieu of that, of just leaving things static at the rates and reducing your proposed budget to accommodate what you expect to get in revenue? And then based on what happens in 21, if you need to increase the rate doing it after 21?
I would vote for that because if I thought we were going to go broke,
Yep,
I wouldn't do this, but I don't feel we're gonna go broke. And I
Yep.
don't think it's gonna drain the fund balance
yep.
to that account, that amount.
My question is, do we have any assurances from Putnam that we're not going to be facing this again next year?
No. You don't, because that's what he just mentioned to me when I questioned him on what they did.
Yeah, well,
Oh.
we're looking at 15% increase there. I don't want to be in this position next year dealing with 30%.
Oh,
Yeah,
God.
well, rather than going back every year, I'd rather let it sit like this and then go back with a known figure.
So my next question is, when's the last time Putnam increased their rates to us?
Let's see, when they went, about 5 years ago, 4 years ago,
About
Yeah, it was
what kind of percentage increase was that?
pardon, what kind of an increase?
Yeah,
Well,
what would you assume that to be as a percentage
they
increase?
really hit us on the head, and that's where our fund balance went. They charged, we used to pay once a year. So our
Mhm.
once a year payment was due, and 2 weeks later, they say, okay, we're going quarterly. So here's our
Yeah.
quarterly payment for the next quarter. So we had a yearly amount and a quarterly amount.
Yeah,
Boom.
that's just like, yeah, I mean, and so what they were doing with that is they were just reapportioning the money that they were billing you.
Oh,
And it
yeah.
turned out that 1 year you got whacked with
Yep.
a year and a quarter's payment.
Yep.
That's probably
Yep.
what happened.
Well,
I
they
so
also
I
had
can't
these
get-
increases that were
That's-
compounded. You remember that? You know, the compounded increases,
Oh, yeah.
10%, 15%. Yeah.
Well, at 15%, I was surprised. That's still there. They've been charging that all along, and they charge that to out-of-town customers.
So they're charging you a surcharge by not being in the town on the system, but rather an
Exactly.
out-of-town customer. Yeah,
Exactly.
Yep.
So
that's a surcharge.
anyways, it was 4 years, and John, I can get you the information. I'll work it up for
I
you.
mean, I don't want to belabor this if you all are
Yeah.
comfortable with doing it this way. I just thought that, based on Putnam's increase, are you feeling safe enough with what you're doing so that you don't end up at the end of the year dipping into your fund balance to be able to pay bills? That's all.
Well,
You may end up having to anyway if you do this.
to the town.
Yep.
And the auditors, all they do is they look at our fund balance, and we'll get a note after the auditors have checked it saying, your fund balance has dropped from here to here, and all the treasurer gets all upset and everybody gets all upset, and I have to sit down with the selectmen and tell them what we're doing, and
Yep.
so anyways, I thought this was reasonable, and like I say, I'm a conservative person, and but I'm not reckless.
Well, the other
I don't
wild
think-
card is the INI,
Oh, yeah.
because we don't, we really don't know what the weather holds in store for us,
Correct.
but we do know the system leaks.
Mhm.
Yep. Yeah. And with this high water table right now, we're getting, more than our share of leaks, but
Yeah.
it's a toss up. Do we spend thousands of dollars getting a section of pipeline checked or what?
Seal. Yeah.
So we did have a whole section of pipe renovated from inside
Yep.
about 4 years ago, Stu.
They put a line.
I was just thinking about that. It's probably a little longer than that, but yeah,
Well,
5.
They did a
The older
line.
you get, the faster the years go, so I don't know.
Yeah. They put a
Yeah.
liner in probably, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, they sprayed a liner in there.
So they do.
yeah. So,
I mean, if you
what's the consensus? What would you like to do? Yeah, to me, I'd rather leave it like this and not go up, and next year get a better handle on it with their rate increase to us and with the they getting back on a normal system with everybody, and I mean, all the households and all our customers.
So amazingly enough, though, this was set up based on their water usage reporting being the metering for being paid for billing for sewer use. So if they have any other water source getting into their sewer line, they don't have to pay for it. That's amazing.
That's the customers. You're talking about our customers.
Yeah, I'm talking about the metered customers.
Yeah, all except the fairgrounds.
Yep. So the fairgrounds is based on discharge.
Yes.
Wow, that's too bad.
So,
I, for one, feel like we probably should maintain our budget and the status quo. We don't, this past year has been really doesn't give us any tools to
No, you
to
can't
work with.
compare, no, you can't compare 2020 to anything
No,
for what you're trying to do. Roger, was your, just going back, what was your budgeted amount for wastewater fees to Putnam in 2019? Was it the same amount of money or was it less?
I don't have that,
I think it
don't
was
have
the same, wasn't it, Roger?
pardon?
I think it was the same,
Was it the 180?
180, I believe.
Oh, you mean our figure? Yeah, it's
Yeah.
been 180 and we've never been near that. We've always been somewhere.
That's been it for the past 5 years, hasn't it?
Right.
I mean, so that to me is another reason to kind of just leave it at 180. And if you have a surplus at the end of the year, that looks great. As opposed to if you reduce it and have a shortage at the end of the year, it doesn't look great. That's the only reason I said that.
Well, no, this piece of paper right here that we're working with
Yep.
is only for internal use anyways.
Okay.
The auditors don't look at this, I don't believe. They look at it in the bookkeepers
Uh-huh.
as much as the bookkeeper has.
Yep.
But
Well, and then playing devil's advocate again, I'd go back to considering what you've had in your budget the last 5 years, knowing that Putnam's increasing your rate. That's all.
yep,
It seems counterintuitive to me. That's why I'm saying this, that if Putnam's raising the usage rate,
oh, okay.
they're
Someone make a motion that we maintain the water waste treatment amount. And if you want, go with the other reductions.
I'd make that motion.
All right,
And
I'll
we-
second it, Tim.
John made the motion, Tim made the second, that we keep the wastewater treatment rate payable to Putnam at 180 for the 21 budget year.
And all the other changes we make will remain.
Yes. And
Yeah.
the other reductions as proposed by the chair will remain.
And there's one figure that we increase on the grinder pump supplies.
Yeah, so I'll just refer to those as, I'll amend the motion to say, and the changes made as recommended by the chair will remain, which would be pluses and minuses.
Okay, can go for a second, Tim, on that?
Yep, yeah, I'll second that.
Okay, any other discussion on the budget?
Yeah, does this mean that we'll have to raise the residential rate?
No, we're gonna leave the rate the way it is.
Right.
Where it is, with just the only thing that changed in Paul is the 180,000 that I had reduced to 160
Will stay the same.
will stay with 180.
We'll stay at 180?
Yes.
Okay.
And that'll put our total figure over the amount we're gonna be expecting as income. But we just, if it reached that point, it just comes out of the same line as far as the treasurer is concerned.
Right.
It comes out of our fund balance, which is what we work off of.
Mhm.
So this is for us to try to keep in, so we don't go willy-nilly.
Correct. Right.
Okay, any other discussion on the budget? All in favor of as recommended? Aye.
I,
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. Now, if I can find
That
my
was, that
agenda here. Hang on a
was the
minute.
last piece, right? Oh, no.
What's that?
No, we got more. Correspondence, I forgot.
We got correspondence and I don't have any correspondence from anyone. So,
The only thing I'd add is that a little verbal correspondence with John Navarro of the highway department there. He was asking me about the manholes from the intersection of 171 and 190, 169, right where the florist used to be, the properties. They're going to be resurfacing that, and he needs to get some riser rings for the manholes.
well, yeah, I already told him when we started, because I had him count up the manholes that we were going to use. When that notice came out from the state about, I
Right.
think before I went to Florida, and I just saw him today, and he was going to talk to the state guy about whether he, make sure he can use the risers.
Yep, there was only, and there seemed to be, he had called me, we were talking about something else and he asked me about it. And so we found a couple, just so his numbers are right. So he has the right number of rises.
Yep.
Right, you know, the sizes and the height also, the diameter and the height that he has to raise them.
So how far-
Yeah, well, he just missed there were a couple that were buried that, and we're still looking for the one down at Lundgren Road in 169.
Oh, yeah,
That got covered too?
Yeah, it's on there. It's one on the side of, just on the apron of the road.
Yep.
And we've had a hard time. Well, we had a hard time locating them. We've had a hard time keeping track of it, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
yeah, I counted them up on the blueprint and came out with about 10, and then I think that's been reduced. hasn't
Yeah, I
it?
think we're working with about 8.
Yeah,
Where are they paving to?
all the way down to Lisbon, down that way.
So they're, are they gonna redo where the transformer blew up at the intersection of 169 and 171 up above?
We're at Line Master, right, just outside of Line Master.
Yeah.
That was just the tree that brought that transformer down, I think.
Yeah, but what happened is it burned up the pavement, and when they patched it,
Yeah.
it's all messed up.
Yeah, I know, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a separate issue, I think.
I know. So what they're talking about doing is below the fairgrounds, right?
Yes, yeah, where you go off to the right there, 169 goes off to the right.
Yep.
From that intersection right there, all the way
All the way
down to
down
the
to Lisbon.
Pomfret Town Line. Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Let's see, there was one other thing. If you've noticed, they're blacktopping on the state roads. They're blacktopping over the all the manhole covers.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
And I
I
brought that to
noticed
John's attention. He says, yeah. I said, as long as they're not gonna pave over the top of them again,
Yeah.
you know, then we really have a job trying to find them.
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
So that's what John's working on, what Stu was talking about,
Mhm.
from that section they're gonna repave.
Yep.
So, any other questions for anyone? Hearing none? I guess we can adjourn.
And Stu, we'll connect sometime so I can go down to the pumping station and the Connex box with you, get a key. I think Stuart
You-
froze.
You awake, Stu?
Stu either froze or fell asleep. Or he's posing. I think he froze.
I think he froze up, yeah.
Yeah, he froze.
He left out already.
Yep.
Night, everyone. Thank
All
you.
right.
You need a motion to adjourn, or we good?
Yeah. Motion to adjourn. Night.
Good night,